Hey everyone, I'm Adam, and last year I was working on a sci-fi pixel art Metroidvania, which I then put on hold to work on a school project, but now it was time to get back into it. However, since I worked on this project quite a while ago, I decided to start over, rebuild it and hopefully improve the code and structure of the project. And I decided to challenge myself to do it in 2 weeks, because that sounds like it would make a cool YouTube title. I started off by compiling my character PNGs into sprite sheets, cause for whatever reason until recently I was using individual PNGs in my 2D projects rather than sprite sheets. And that's all I did on day 1. But on day 2 I actually jumped into a new project. I imported the sprite sheets and set them up. I also thought it was about time I finally tried this MyBox library thing from Dead Cows, which has a bunch of interesting features in it, like being able to hide fields in the inspector depending on other variables and stuff. After all this I was finally about to get started, but hold on, why are my sprites blurry? Well, after fiddling around for a bit, I found out that the solution to this was disabling the anti-aliasing on the camera. Now, after all this, I actually got started on movement, and all was good, after I remembered what I was doing. The next day, I added wall sliding and wall jumping, though wall jumping didn't turn out so well. At this point, I started struggling with motivation and feeling overwhelmed, so I figured, you know what? This 2-week challenge doesn't have to be a consecutive challenge. So I took a 3-day break, and then I felt better afterwards. After this mini vacation, I got wall jumps to work, with this bit of dumb code. Probably could be done much better, but this is fine. Then I added the dash ability with some particles, and hold on, something doesn't seem right. Enhance. The particles work properly when dashing on the ground, but it's rotated wrong when dashing off of a wall. You know what? I'm going to sleep. Alright, I fixed the particles. I don't know what the problem was, but I worked around it. I wasn't very motivated, but I still tried to get some work done, so I imported my dev console to have some cheat codes at my disposal. Also threw together a temporary main menu. By the way, the codename for the old project was 2DP. That stands for 2D Pixel Art Platformer Metroidvania thing. But it's about time I started using an actual title. So, Cieron's Escape. Sure hope that name isn't already taken. Well, I just realized Cieron's an actual name. I was just making up gibberish. But okay then, hopefully we're good anyway. The next day I imported the LeanTwin library and tried to make a fancy double jump effect. Had some trouble with getting the alpha to fade out. Did some research, found this bit of code, couldn't get it to work though. I was about to give up and just make a fade out animation in Unity when I noticed something on the Unity animator window. And with this knowledge I got the LeanTwin code to work. I made a health bar for the player and the related damage and heal functions, and the next day I started working on an enemy. The number 1 enemy in the original project was the drone, but this time I decided to work on the charger instead. I got them to patrol between 2 waypoints and charge at the player when in range. I tried to limit their seeing angle so that they won't try to attack the player if he's literally above them, and whoa, what's happening? Well, anyway, the next day I made it so that the player can get damaged and die. For some reason, my method for reviving the player after that was always to simply reload the current scene. But lately I've come to realize it's less of a pain to not reload scenes. You just put the player back to the checkpoint, undo the death, heal the player, delete and respawn enemies, and that's it. Okay, it kinda sounds like it's more work than simply reloading scenes. But if you're reloading scenes a lot, you'll eventually have to deal with don't destroy on load, which I found to be a pain in the ass, so no reloading, it's much nicer that way. Or maybe I'm just making an idiot out of myself right now. Whatever. I made some damage effects and the checkpoint. Yeah, it's just a bonfire from Dark Souls. I also wanted to disable collision between player and enemy once the player's dead, and that was a piece of cake. Works like a charm. Whoa! Alright. Turns out, for the ignore layer collision method, I was supposed to pass in layer indexes instead of layer masks. Of course. The next day, I worked on the double jump sound effect and the pause menu. That doesn't actually pause the game, but it allows you to quit to the main menu. And the next day, 10 days into the challenge, I finally stopped procrastinating and got to work on the shooting mechanic for the player. On day 11, I made the enemy take damage and die. Using the same sound effects for both the player and the enemy death, that might be a bad idea. Anyhow, I tried adding some sound effects to the wall sliding and remade the map. You might wonder, why am I making these ugly placeholder maps instead of using the fancy tile map that I had in the old project? That's because I want to make it clear to myself that these levels are placeholders. In the future, I'll be making proper levels with the fancy tile maps. On day 12, I made an options menu, and I also imported a bunch of save system related scripts from my other projects, which I'm now using to save the game settings. I also made music play in a specific zone, just so we can test out the music volume. This song is from an older gem game of mine, the 4th of January. Day 13. I made enemies respawn upon player death, or when resting at the bomb checkpoint. And I added some icons to the UI, for weapon reasons. Except I was once again procrastinating on the shooting/weapon system, so that was all for the day. And here we are. The last day of the challenge has come upon us. I bit the bullet, stopped procrastinating once again, and got to work on the weapon overheating system and the way to allow for multiple weapons. Well, that was the challenge. Let's see what we have compared to the original. In the OG game we had a main menu, no options window. We did have a working saving loading system though. Not like there was much game progress to be saved. In the old version we could encounter 2 enemies, the charger and the drone. We could use the plasma gun to rocket jump, which is something missing from the new game. However, in this old version we did not have the icons that show your currently equipped weapon, so you win some, you lose some. In the old game, Cieron was able to run. I didn't even try to implement this in the new version, cause I wasn't sure if this was needed at all, but we'll see in the future. We had some platforming section and contact damage with enemies and hazards. And lastly, the most important feature, we had destructible plants. Overall, I feel like the challenge turned out pretty well. It does seem like I managed to recreate most of the mechanics, and hopefully the structures and code are improved too. Alright, thanks for watching. Hit like, leave a comment and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more of this project, or come watch me succumb to shiny object syndrome.